How do you see your future role as president when it comes to contract negotiations?
Having been involved with the Tennessee Employment Relations Research Association, TERA, and Labor and Employment Relations Association, LERA, I have learned how to get in touch with seasoned arbitrators, whether they can be on our negotiation team or advise us on how to handle the tough questions these companies that we're negotiating with, uh, the appropriate answers of why we should have a better pay, better working conditions, a smaller tool list, and overall better respect when comparing our local to other locals that have already gained that. And having resources like that, I think, would give us a better edge, which I would like to see implemented.
I would like to see our contract negotiations be more brought up to where par with the cost of living in Nashville. If you look at, for example, Louisville's scale, their jurisdiction starts around Bowling Green. You figure their scale is $8 more an hour on the check issue, right around. And then you look at their retirement, and their retirement's $3, $4 an hour higher than ours. So they're at an $11, $12 an hour difference. I really feel that is unjustified, and we are definitely getting the short end of the stick.
So the cool thing about contract negotiations is that all that falls on the BA to kind of pick his team or pick their team, whoever that is. But if I was given that opportunity, I'd assist in any way I could, as far as helping them find the research or find the data points to kind of make a strong argument, because at the end of the day, that's all it is. I mean, it's the contractors and their group who've been together for decades versus, the union and our team, which is more or less has been rotating every 3 years as a whole, except for maybe one or two parts. I think Craig Pruitt is the only person that is usually on the team just because he's a pretty good, like the wording and stuff. I think he's really good. He has a niche for that. But I think what I'd like to see is probably like a groups of people that are trusted or that have taken responsibility in the union, and maybe pull those people together and have like a bargaining team that we're sitting down, we're kind of going through negotiations together, and like just kind of opening, like within our own unit, kind of talking about it and explaining all the steps, so it's just you're not blindsided every time you go into negotiations. So I feel like every new BA, they go in there more or less with their pants down because they've never been on the team before, most of them. So I think as president, what I try to do is just help them set up a structure, a system, so that we could keep teaching people the process and have people in the room so that every time a new BA comes, it's not a whole new negotiating team, but you got people who were part of the last negotiation. They're there with you, and they're going over the data points. So these were the rebuttals of the contractors, and this is what they said in this meeting, and then we counted with this. So it's like you kind of walk in with a playbook of sorts, right? To kind of to fight a little bit more, because like I said, I mean, the contractors have the same group of people working together for the last 20 plus years. So it's like, they're just looking at each other talking, like, like when there's somebody get really close, it's like you look at them like, we're not going for that. You just gotta give them like a little look, and they know what you're saying. They're writing notes and they're prepared and they're learning how to, they're countering you. But I think it's such a big process, and we don't have a system really in place so that the next person that's in charge has. So that's what I'd like to do as a president, is set up a system where there's a negotiation team or negotiating, not committee, but like find people that have taken responsibility in the local and have a negotiation kind of, what do you call it, debriefing. So we're all sitting down and we're all kind of shooting ideas at things, and hopefully learning together and taking notes. So maybe the next BA that goes in, there's this whole, like, this is last year's negotiation. These are all the lead up conversation. And you could give them that so they can kind of go study it and be prepared when they go in the room, instead of going in there, not knowing what the last BA negotiated on and with what they countered with, and kind of more or less understanding how we got to where we are today, in contrast to, throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall and trying to figure out what's sticking or why it doesn't stick when you shoot.
Yeah, they have a lot of institutional consistency, right?
Yeah. I mean, most of the successful locals do. I mean, you look at Local 3 or 103, I mean, they've had this, I think, local, is it 103 is Boston? It's like the same BA for the last like 15, 20 years, or is that New York is Local 3? But like the same BA for the last 20 years. So, negotiations aren't just not just data and not just information. It's relationships. It's like, that guy you're willing to work with, or the guy you've worked with in the past, and it's like, hey, I'm not falling for that BS. Right? Like, yeah. So you get through all the BS and the fluff of the poker face stuff, and more or less you're working together in a way. I think that's the one thing that we miss in the South more than many other places, I think.
Um, I don't feel like we've been getting what we deserve in our area. That's one of the reasons why I want to start getting more involved. I feel like the past couple contract negotiations we should have had better than what we got. Um, so I figured it was time to step up and do my part to try to move things in the right direction.
The actual president role doesn't guarantee a spot on that negotiation council, but if me and Jeremy both are in there, I know I'll be on that committee. I've served on that committee before, and I don't know. I've always been known to say stuff that both sides need to hear. I think my time spent at the negotiating table with these contractors would be a training that you just can't get in negotiating training or whatever. And if elected and brought on as an assistant, I would like to look into actually having a paid for negotiator, a professional negotiator to either sit in and or train up the committee that will be going before the contractors.
Well, with contract negotiations, I usually, me and my business manager, the business manager, we get together, we try to pick out people that are like-minded like us, that want a stronger contract. We put a lot on the table to see what we can get all the time. But yeah, just finding the right people that is like-minded